Hey there everyone, Videogame Cabinet here, and today we're doing a review on Gollum for the PlayStation 5. I just finished this earlier this afternoon. Gollum is a sad, ugly, and utterly boring game. Who thought it would be a good idea to make Gollum the lead man in a Lord of the Rings game? In the movies, he was brilliant as a supporting character antagonist, but in the video game, he's terrible and unsympathetic in the lead role. The story takes place behind the scenes of the first half of Fellowship of the Ring, where Gollum is escaping from the orcs and later the elves. I was completely bored the whole time, as this was never a side of the story I wanted to hear. I had absolutely no interest in any of the characters Gollum met, and nothing ever happened except Gollum escaping from the orcs in the first half of the game and escaping from the elves in the second half of the game. It was just so boring and forgettable, I could not wait to be done with this game and never have to play it again. The gameplay itself was extremely rudimentary. There's some really basic platforming where you jump, grab a ledge, rinse, and repeat. Climbing up to the many high locales was not always too bad, but basically everything feels the same. The parkour mechanics do not require much skill at all, as Gollum will float to a ledge as long as he's within a few inches of reaching it. And around the second half of the game, I noticed that there were some close quarters indoor platforming in certain houses in the elves location, and there the camera got really cramped and the platforming got really shitty. But like at other times of the game, it's okay, but it really all feels the same, just kind of super basic, pretty mediocre, There are also stealth segments in which the enemy AI can be rather dumb. I'm sure it was a lot worse before the game got patched. It's pretty easy to make them forget about you once you've been spotted, which is actually a blessing because it speeds up the process of finishing this snooze fest. The platforming and stealth take up about 90% of the gameplay. There is the occasional minigame where Smeagol/Gollum argues with himself, but the choices don't seem to make any sense or any difference in the story. And once in a while, there is a small environmental puzzle to solve. The game is extremely linear, with nothing to explore, if anyone would even want to. The backdrops don't look too bad, but all the character models are rather homely, especially Gollum himself and the elves. The ending fight is also really lame, and I was just glad the game was finally over. On the bright side, I did not notice too many glitches in my playthrough. This game was notorious for game-breaking bugs at launch last year, which was about 9 months ago. But the update file that I downloaded seems to have fixed most of them. I did notice one major glitch in Chapter 1 where I needed to follow two orcs who simply refused to move. But after that, I counted only a few minor glitches that required me to reload a previous checkpoint, and thankfully, the checkpoints were fairly frequent. I am going to give Gollum a 2 out of 10. And that is my review. Yeah, the more I think about it, the more this game was just actually absolute trash. It was just so boring. Even though they fixed the bugs and the glitches with the patch that I downloaded now 9 months after the game originally came out, you're still left with just a super boring story, like super rudimentary platforming and stealth mechanics. And like this is, what are we, like almost 4 years into the ps5? This is really like, oh man. I mean, I was expecting really bad, and like as I was playing it, I was thinking, well, it's not as bad as Superman 64, but but the more that I think about it, the more I'm like, no, this really was trash and just so boring. Like I said, even with polishing up most of the glitches with the patches, it just um I just can't believe how utterly boring this game was, and just after sleeping on it, I really I hated this game. It was terrible, you know. Again, it's not quite as bad as Superman 64, but um, it's still really awful, you know. So. And yeah, one more quick little thing. I did see online that when the game launched, it did have quite a substantial more bugs and glitches. Like I said, the only big one that I noticed was in the beginning of chapter, or around the middle of chapter one. There's a glitch where I had to follow these two orcs and trap them with the spider, Shelob, I think her name is, and they just wouldn't move, and I had to figure out a way to like run ahead to like get one of them to start moving, and it was just I had to find a glitch to counter that glitch, and it was terrible, and I was ready to rage quit, but I was finally able to make it work, and then past that. I only noticed 3 or 4 times when the game would break, and I would have to reload a previous checkpoint. And luckily, it wouldn't be too far behind um, at all. So that was very gracious of them to have frequent checkpoints, because otherwise, I don't know. But yeah, I think if I had played the game at launch without the update patch, hell, this may have gotten a 1 or a 1.5. I don't know. But even as is, like I said, with the patch, like it's still just a boring story with like really forgettable characters and just like ugly character models and just like the most rudimentary basic gameplay, you know. So that's why, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and settle here on a 2 out of 10. Um, this game really just sucks, and I'm glad it's done. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say. Have a good night.